Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Camden and today we'll be talking all about internships. It's getting to be that time of year again where everyone is starting to apply and look for summer 2026 internships, so I thought I would hop on here and tell everyone a little bit about why internships are so important, types of internships, how to look for them, and how to apply for them. Let's dive in. Let's dive into why internships are so important. When we make the transition from undergrads to our first full-time job, employers are really looking for real-world experience. Of course, our schoolwork sets us up with the foundational skills and knowledge to be able to succeed, but real-world experience also shows you have the ability to put that into practice. For example, in class we talk about how FEMA coordinates relief efforts, but if you were an intern with FEMA, you may be able to see this take place in every step of the way, from start to finish. This isn't something we necessarily got the opportunity to do in school, but being able to do it through an internship is something you could also put on a resume when applying to a similar job. Another reason is for career exploration and clarification. Maybe you have no idea what you want to do after you graduate, and that's completely okay. That's actually what internships were made for. They were made for students to be able to explore different career fields without being stuck with that choice for the rest of your life. For example, you might be interested in government work, but maybe you don't want to pursue it full time. Interning with a government agency for one summer could give you insight into what that career field looks like. And then the next summer, if you weren't necessarily in love with it, you could move to the private sector. Another reason why internships are so important is to build professional skills. In college, you're surrounded by all your same peers taking the same classes, but when you're interning, you're working with professionals in the field. In fact, you are a professional in the field at that point. So it's important to really take those skills, gather them, and apply them to future jobs. Another really great reason why internships are so important is networking and mentorship. In each different company, most likely you will be assigned a mentor where they will be able to help you answer questions that you might not get in class and really guide you in what you might be looking for in your future. And of course, internships are always going to look good on a resume, especially when applying for your first full-time job. Majoring in homeland security gives us a lot of different career fields that we can go into. Today we'll be talking about just a few. First is federal level, so this can include DHS, FEMA, TSA, and intelligence agencies like CIA. If you, after college, are sure that you want to go into a federal career position, I would recommend interning at one of these locations since it will look very good on a resume to know you have that experience already going in. Federal level work is normally what people think of when they think of homeland security, but you are absolutely not limited to just these specific agencies or federal work at all. The next type of work you can go into is state and local work. So this can include state emergency management offices and local law enforcement support roles. So if you maybe grew up looking at one of these roles in your hometown thinking it was super cool, there might be an opportunity for you to intern there. And even though it might not have Homeland Security Intern as the title, a lot of jobs still fall under the Homeland Security umbrella and will look extremely good on a resume, and everything is good when you're just trying to gain real-world skills. Another industry you can go into is the private sector. So these could be cybersecurity firms, risk management consultancies, or just security at a sports venue. This is good for people who maybe are sure that they don't want to go into federal work, but aren't necessarily sure what type of private sector they want to go into. This will give you a good wide range of what Homeland Security looks like not in federal work. And apart from that, there are nonprofits which can include like disaster relief organizations or policy advocacy groups. Maybe you are really passionate about volunteering and you really want to put those skills while combining them with Homeland Security. You can definitely do that. There's a lot of agencies that will go around helping to support disaster relief efforts, and it's really great. It's a great experience. There's also academic and research, so maybe you are like an underclassman looking to just get real world experience, but maybe it's not time for an internship yet. Totally understandable. You can work in a lab, say analyzing threat intelligence, or policy setters studying international security. There's a lot of different options. Maybe you really love homeland security, but you have no idea what you want to go into. Say maybe one year you work with the CIA, being an intern for them, and maybe the next year you're interning for Netflix as a security agent. There's really a wide range of possibilities. So don't ever feel like you're limited to just being an employee in a federal agency, because you're not. But if you want to be, by any means. So now let's talk about skills and qualifications. A lot of the times you might be an incoming sophomore or an incoming junior and you've had no real world experience. You have nothing that says, I know how to do this from start to finish. That's okay. A lot of these companies aren't looking for you to be experts in your field. They know you're students, that you're still learning, and that you might not have even taken many Homeland Security classes prior to applying. They expect that and they want that. In fact, a lot of the reason you're interning is to learn, is to ask questions and be able to think for yourself and experience a professional setting. For technical skills, these can look anything from basic cybersecurity concepts like network security or threat detection to understanding emergency protocols or standard operating procedures, which all of our classes dive heavily into this, so I am confident that everyone will be applying to these internships with a foundational knowledge that will set them up for success. So say you're not overly confident with your technical skills when applying to these internships. Don't worry, soft skills are equally as important. A lot of Homeland Security roles utilize soft skills like teamwork, communication, adaptability, problem solving, critical thinking, and professionalism and ethics. If you demonstrate these soft skills, say during an interview, a lot of the time they'll look right past your technical skills. And I promise they're not expecting any undergrad to come with, say, 20 years of experience in the field. They are really looking to give you that experience firsthand. Another qualification that might be needed is a security clearance. With a lot of these federal internships, not a lot, I'd say some, you might be required to have one. Most students, I'd say, aren't required to have one prior to starting. It might be something that you get on the job. But if it is something you are required to have before applying, make sure you do it a long time in advance because it can be a very lengthy process. Also, looking at citizenship requirements, some of these federal positions can have U.S. citizenship requirements, so before applying to any of these positions, make sure you meet all qualifications. Alright, now let's look at how to find internships. This might be the most difficult step, but there are a lot of resources for us out there that we can utilize. On campus, we can utilize resources like career services, like meeting with your advisor, to maybe talk about where you want to go in your future, and they might have a direction they can point you in with either contacts or a specific department on campus. Tulane's primary job and internship platform is Handshake. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, and if not, maybe you're a freshman, you're just coming in. Handshake is a great way to find jobs and internships. You can use filtering techniques to look for specific jobs, say cybersecurity versus emergency management is a really useful feature. And Handshake, honestly, they have a lot of recruiters, a lot of job opportunities, so always be sure to check there first. Another thing is workshops and resume building. Our campus has a lot of opportunities to build that resume, make sure it is the best it can be before applying. Career services will look over your resume, also hold mock interviews. Career Launch is a program here that goes through your resume, tells you how to network. It's a really great program, so if you're interested, I would definitely look into that. But one of the most important ways to find internships that I want to talk about is teacher connections. A lot of us know our classes are taught by real-world professionals. Either they're serving in the military, maybe they're emergency management coordinators. So many different possibilities. I've had so many different great professors here, and I don't think one of them is actually sitting at Tulane, which is very cool to see. It's not something we see a lot of other classes at Tulane. So maybe you had a teacher and they were telling you about what they do and you thought, oh my god, that's really, really cool. I would love to see what more about that, or look more about that. Ask them. Ask, hey, can I set up a meeting with you to talk? And just get to know them. Get to know what their job is, what they do, if they like it. And then at the end of the conversation, say, hey, I'm looking for an internship for next year. Do you or someone you might know, can I reach out to them and talk about the possibility of any open roles or an application? Not only does this show interest into what they're doing, but it's also a great way to go into the field that you're really interested in and you want to see more of. Ask your peers. A lot of students, maybe they're a few years above you, they've had internships. Maybe they're applying for full-time roles, not internships anymore. Perfect. Ask them maybe what company they interned for, what their position was, if they liked it. And then at the end say, do you have maybe a recruiter I could reach out to, or anyone you would put me in contact with that I could reach out to? This is another great way. I know personally I'm always willing and available to help my peers, and I'm sure they would be the same way for me. Another great way is the Tulane Alumni Network. So to utilize this, I think the best way would be to go on LinkedIn, go to Tulane University. There should be a little tab that says Alumni. And from there, you can look at specific career fields that they're in. Reach out to them. Send a connection invite that has a little label, hey, I'm looking at internship positions for blah, blah, blah role. Do you have anyone I could talk to? Or your position seems really interested. Could you give me any advice? Tulane alumni networking is so important. We have so many Tulane alum, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to respond and they're going to be happy to help. These are all great ways, but of course there's obvious, the regular way of going through portals. So like the government portals is usajobs.gov. Will give you all government jobs for interns and for full-time positions. There's also things like DHS student programs, FEMA internship programs, TSA, ICE, and Secret Service. If you go onto their main website, a lot of the times they'll have either something called student programs, internship programs, or future career roles. And these are all great to look at. A lot of the times, maybe that's where you're going to find the application. It's going to be directly on these websites. For state and local internships, if you are from a town where it's super small, go into it. Go into the places like the fire department, emergency management offices. Ask them. Say, are you looking for any interns? I'm super passionate about this field. I grew up watching what you've done. Is there any way I could work alongside you guys for the summer? A lot of the times, people are going to be really open because we're students. We're the next generation. We're forming what they are going to be like. All of this to say, when you're looking to find internships, networking is your number one priority. Talk to anyone and everyone you can. Let them know what you want out of your future and how you might be able to achieve it. So let's say now you have a list of internships that you want to apply for next summer. What do you do now? First, you want to research entirely. Understand the company's missions, projects, priorities prior to applying and prior to any interviews. Identify that your skills align with their line of work. Keep track of deadlines. You don't want to come to apply and then you realized application's closed. The primary application deadline is they'll open in August or September, close in February or March. So now really is the time to be looking and applying. You have a few months, so don't stress out. You're still okay, but come March, it might be a little too late to start the process of looking for internships. Another really important aspect is crafting your resume. Maybe you have 25 different jobs that you want to apply for next summer. You should have at least 25 different resumes that go along with those. You want to Coordinate your coursework, project, and skills to what will be relevant for that specific job. Highlight any real-world experience or volunteer experience that will align with the job prior. Let's talk about some challenges that you might face while applying and looking for internships. Sometimes these applications can be super competitive, so don't feel really discouraged if the first few you apply to you aren't accepted. It can happen, it happens to a lot of people, especially for those who aren't juniors or seniors. A lot of these positions are going to be prioritized to upperclassmen just because that's how it works. They're going to be the first to graduate, so they're going to be the first to get internships. Also, security clearance and background checks can be an issue if you maybe don't have the ability to get a security clearance, or background checks you might not pass. A lot of these federal internships will be requiring background checks at a minimum, so always something to be aware of. Unpaid internships, maybe you've been used to working paid jobs since you were in high school. Making that switch to an unpaid internship can be kind of difficult, but I can assure you there are a ton of internships that are paid, and those that aren't are still going to look extremely well on a resume and do the exact as a paid one would. Location constraints might also be an issue. A lot of these federal internships are going to be located in DC or bordering regions, so maybe you're not local to DC. Maybe you're not willing to relocate to DC. Of course, these are only for federal internships. I'm sure there are a plethora of other internships that might be local to you. Now I want to tell you guys a little bit about my internship experience. For those who might not know my background, I am a junior doing a dual degree in computer science and homeland security with a minor in psych. So let's take it back to my freshman year. I was on a flight back to my spring semester here at Tulane. It was a really bad night. My entire flight got canceled. I slept on the ground in an airport, and all of a sudden I get on a standby flight back to school. Things are looking up. So I get on this flight, I'm ready to lay down, take a nap, and all of a sudden the guy next to me, we start striking up conversation. We talk about how his daughters are in school, how I'm in school, what we're studying, and what I want to do in my future. It comes to be about 20 minutes before the flight lands, and he tells me about how he owns a company. Odds are it was about 10 minutes away from my house when we were about 15 states away. Crazy odds to begin with, but we started to strike up conversation, and at the end of it, I asked him for a business card. Flash forward a few weeks later, I had an interview with the hiring manager at his company, and then a few months after that, I was interning starting in the summer. So all of that to say, networking is so incredibly important. You never know who you're sitting next to, whether it's on a plane, maybe you're at a restaurant. It never hurts to just strike up conversation with someone. Maybe I looked at him and said, you know what, I want to take a nap. I'm good. And I could have gone to sleep. And I would have never had that internship. At the end of my first internship my summer, I was a software engineering internship. It was amazing. So I got to utilize my computer science skills, but his company was a defense contractor, which ties in extremely well with homeland security. This was really my dream internship. I got to work on coding while also working in a defense contractor, working for federal contracts, and it was really insightful into both industries. At the end of that summer, I got a return offer for my sophomore year summer. This was another great experience. I actually ended up moving to a different location a few states away, which is another great way to learn more about the field, but still within staying in the same company. So this past summer, this last one, I was an IT intern, again for the defense contracting, but instead of working on autonomous vehicles, I worked on weapons systems, which was super cool. All my work I did was extremely rewarding. And at the end of this summer, I also was offered a return offer for next year, summer of 2026, as a software engineering internship. So all of this to say, networking is so incredibly important. I could have looked at the guy next to me and said, I don't want to talk right now, and that would have been fine, but I would have never been where I am today. Network with your teachers, always keep them as a contact. Network with your peers. always be willing to share advice with your fellow students as well. So as you finish up this video and begin to look for your own internships beginning next summer, please head over to our LinkedIn page, Tulane SoPA Emergency and Security Studies, where you will find our own internship job bank, where I will be posting a bunch of internship opportunities that you all can apply to. But yeah, this is all for the internship episode. See you next time.